Hey, it's Trisha at Club Scrap, and it's time to create the cards from the Legacy collection. I usually begin by setting aside or leaving in the bag everything but the papers that we've included, at least until we get the framework of all these cards set up. I've got a copy of the printed directions. This is available on our website as well. And then I'm also using an accordion pocket file along with my trimmer to stay organized and make some great cuts. So all of the pieces for every single one of the 12 cards we're about to make, we're going to trim all at the same time, then score together, and then assemble in batches of 4 cards. So let's grab our paper, and I like to hold it upright so I can see easily from the top edge. And let's find all the pieces in the order that we're going to trim them. So the first piece I want you to find is this light blue. So there's a teal and then this pretty light blue. This has this neat mottled texture, which I love. Then grab a teal. Oh, and this teal, we've never had this one before. Can you see the fibers right in the paper? It's just really beautiful. Then a pink metallic. This has a lineal, you can hear it, lineal texture to it. And then finally find that brand new style of red that we've never had before either. It's like a garnet metallic red. It's so beautiful. Okay, then we're gonna find all those same colors again. So let's find the light blue, the teal, one of the pink metallics, and the red metallic. Next, we're going to trim both prints. So those two go next, these guys. I'm going to put those face down on my trimmer base. Next, you'll notice that the Cutaparts are like the same map twice, but they have different sentiments on them. So just so we're on the same page, it won't really matter, but we'll go your friendship. Let's look at this large piece here. It should say your friendship on it, and then wishing you a quick and complete recovery. That'll go on the other one. I had a request for some get well cards this month, so we honored that. Now we have some trimming and filing to do. So to begin, we need to figure out the grain direction of this particular sheet of paper. I'll hold it by an edge, see which side has the most droop. Did you see it droop? Like, this is pretty stiff. This, boom, it just kind of falls down. It really dips low. So I'm going to put that dip going top to bottom in the trimmer, and then I'm going to do the same for the teal. That's very stiff. This is very dippy. And that way when we fold the cards in the future, we'll be folding with the grain, or folding the way the paper wants to go. Our first cut will be at 11.5 inches. I'm doing both sheets at the same time. Make sure your paper is level at the top, stabilize on the clear bar. If you're brand new, you can work one sheet at a time and just repeat. And also you can slow me down by adjusting your playback speed on YouTube. All right, so 11.5. And then I'm gonna slide down to 9.25. And then 5. Okay, rotate the 5-inch piece and trim at 9. We're gonna make a pile of cards, or papers rather, that need to be scored to be made into cards. So I'm gonna set these aside. And then this rectangular piece will go in pocket C. Pick up the next strip. This is 4.25 by 12 right now, and we're gonna trim it at 11. These are going to be card bases, so they need to be scored. And then you have this little piece here going in pocket A. And then this next strip will trim at 11.75. So it's going to create a tiny piece off the end. And then 5.75. Give this a rotation, so that's now vertical. And we'll trim at 2. Okay, this goes in pocket C. When you trimmed at 2, you took off this little end. This is a scrap. I'll set those aside. And then this other piece goes in pocket C also. And this strip is technically a scrap, so I'll pop that into pocket D. That's where I put things I didn't use, but I could. And if I later want to use it to embellish a card, I have it. Otherwise, when you're done making all the cards, just throw it away. Now we've got to check the grain direction on the pink, making sure it dips easily top to bottom. And that red metallic, same thing. Easily dipping top to bottom. Again, cut it 11.5. Make sure you stabilize. Really important with these metallics and 2 sheets. Then down to 9 1/4 again. We're repeating these instructions. So 9 1/4, 5, rotate and cut at 9. Set aside to be scored. And this will go in pocket C with its other friends. Then this strip, it's 4 1/4 by 12 right now. Make it 11. Score this and file in A. Take the next strip. We'll trim at 11 3/4, 5 3/4. Give it a rotation. And now it's vertical. We'll cut at 2. Pocket C. And you created some scraps there. This one also pocket C. Some more scraps. And then you've got these guys that are, long enough you could save them. I actually don't even think I used them, but either way. Pocket D if you want on those. Now we're going to do a new map for 4 more sheets. So we're going to check grain again because eventually this paper will fold. And once again, it needs to dip from top to bottom on the teal and the light blue. We'll do both at the same time. Cut at 11, 6 1/4, rotate and cut at 4 1/2. I know it's a little weird to have so much paper out here, but it's because we have more rotating to do and it's just easier. I'm going to rotate and cut at 3. So that's a horizontal cut at 3. Rotate again and cut at 3 1/4. Wow. Okay. This rectangle, pocket B. Then you have a little strip here, A. This ends up being 3 1/4 by 4 1/2, and it gets set aside to be scored. This larger piece gets scored as well. The next strip, we're going to do quite a few cuts here. Start out at 11 1/4, 9 1/2, 6 3/4. Pocket C on these. This pair of rectangles, these rectangles, all 3 sets, they go in pocket C. And then you have like a smaller strip, A. And you have this 1-inch pieces, those go in D. Now, if you are brand new to this, you might be a little bit frustrated, you might feel rushed or overwhelmed. I encourage you to hang in there with me while we do this a second time with the remaining 2 colors of paper. And just know that this investment of time up front with all of the planning I've done and all the pocket assignments or pile assignments, if you don't have the accordion pocket file, obviously you make 3 piles. But don't give up. Hang in there. Even if you make a mistake, maybe find a substitution for an error. It's not a big deal. I think you'll really enjoy the reward of the assembly on the back end. So this is just a little pep talk to hang in there. I'm checking grain direction for that paper again, making sure they fold easily top to bottom, and then we'll cut at 11, 6 1/4, rotate, cut at 4 1/2, rotate again and cut at 3, rotate again and cut at 3 1/4. Every cut has a purpose. All right, pocket B on the square shape here, rectangle actually. Then you have a smaller piece going in A. This piece will be scored. This scored. And then we'll cut this into sections here. So this currently is 4 3/4 by 12. We'll cut at 11 1/4. 9 1/2. 6 3/4. The large, the medium, and the smaller, they go in pocket C together. And then you do have this other little strip here going in A. Nothing but like those little strips going into A, and then this is a scrap. And now we get to trim the prints. And you can trim the prints at the same time if you like, or if you prefer, you can work one at a time, totally up to you. Our first cut is at 11 on both of them. and then 7, and that's why you might want to work one at a time. 4 1/4. Prints are a little slippery sometimes. Okay, now rotate the 4 1/4 inch piece and trim at 6. And this will go in pocket B, all 4 of them. Pocket B, there's not much in there right now, but that's gonna change. Then you have these 2 narrower strips. We're gonna trim them at 6. Pocket B again. Another pair of strips. These are 4 by 12 right now. We'll cut at 10 1/2 and 5 1/4. These 4, pocket A. Finally, something big in A. These are scraps, technically. Put them in D, along with these other narrow strips. That's it for the plain and printed pieces. Now we have the cut-aparts. And as an official reminder, in the corner of the cut-apart, you're going to find that little crosshairs here. I call those registration marks. And you need to trim right through those lines to remove the perimeter of the sheet, all 4 edges, and turn this into a perfect 12 by 12. Now when I make my first cut, it's a little bit harder to see because I can't tell at the top and bottom where the blade is. So sometimes I just trim a little shy of that piece. It's up to you how you want to handle it. And then you work your way around. Once you make the first cut, you can see a lot better on the second one and all the ones after that. So work your way around, just always line it up with the edge of the blade. Now when you make this next turn, if I look over here, I can see 12 inches. So now I've got a pretty good, and my final kind of cleanup cut results in a little curly Q piece. I'm always impressed when my trimmer does that for me. Throw away those scraps, and now we're going to trim this little end off here for starters. Let's see, 11 1/2 is our first cut. And then 10 1/2. 8 3/4, 7, and 4. Rotate and trim this at 10 1/2 and 5 1/4. All right, this piece and the one that matches it, that's the inside for card set A. And then this little guy, we're also going to add to A. The next strip we need to trim into 4 elements. So they're not all the same, so be careful. We're going to go at 9 1/4, and then 6, and 3 1/4. All of these go in pocket B. The next 2 strips are the same. If you would like, you can trim them at the same time. And we're going to go, let's see, 10 and 5 1/2. All of this goes in pocket C. Everything from both strips. Pocket C. And then this next one, happy birthday on the right, 9 1/4 and 6 1/2. Card set A. And I believe I used this in B. And this I used in B as well. We do need to run that perimeter trim again. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. You do yours, I'll do mine. And when we come back, we will have a perfect 12 by 12 to trim and file together. All right, here we are again with the narrow strip on the right. And it's a kind of a repeat here. So we'll go 11 1/2, 10 1/2, 8 3/4, 7, and 4. Rotate, and we'll go at 10 1/2, 5 1/4. Stack these 2 pieces, going in pocket A again, along with this little one that came off the end. The next strip, make sure congratulations is on your right, and we'll cut at 9 1/4, 6, and 3 1/4. All of these pieces go in B, The next 2 strips can be trimmed together. We'll cut at 10 and 5.5. Gather everything up from that strip and put it in pocket C. Lots in C right now. Then this next one will go 9.25 and 6.5. You can put this in pocket B, and these 2 get well soons in pocket A, and this strip in B. You know, if you want, let's just take out these 2 pieces, and we can trim them at the same time if you want at 6.25. And so you can see a little better, the strip is resting along the bottom edge of the inch marks on that straight line. And then I use the 6.25 inch piece in set B. And then, believe it or not, if you would like, you can trim these down to 5.5. I used these in set A. You know, waste not, want not, right? This is the other purpose that drives the way we trim. The official scraps, really, from your 12 sheets of paper or 10 sheets of paper plus the Cutaparts that you started with are this. See, that's what it's all about. It's not wasting your time or your materials or your storage space, because literally when you're done making the cards from this collection, there is nothing left other than cards to send out to your friends and family, people that you care about. So I'm getting rid of my trimmer, supporting my my accordion pocket file here, and I'll just lay that down. And I have my score pal ready to go, and we've got some scoring to do. So we had this whole stack that we had set aside, right? So let's tackle it kind of in the order these pieces landed. Our first piece is 6.25 by 7.5, and if I place that horizontally in the score pal, I'm going to want to score it 4.5. And that'll make like a split flap card. So again, you need to make sure it's horizontal, that the 7.5 is here, and score it 4.5. I'm going to find the other 2 just like it. There should be a teal one with score at 4.5, and the light blue also 4.5. And gather those up. You can place them in pocket B, since that is the base for card set B. Now we have these other guys. This is going to be scored at 3.5 on the horizontal. So just make sure it says 4.5, score at 3.5. 3.5, and the 4th one. All of these also get placed in pocket B. Now we have these long skinny ones, so this is just going to be a simple basic card. We're scoring in half. So the 11-inch edge is, I would call this horizontal, and we'll score at 5.5. Again, 5.5 on the teal version. Just skip ahead in the pile to find the pieces that are the same. 5.5, 5.5. Now on this pink, it does have a texture on one side and it's smooth on the other. So when you're scoring with the score pal, put the texture side facing up. And these all are going to be set A card bases, so pocket those. And then finally we have the odd size as well. Here we've got a 9 by 5. I'm going to score horizontally at 7 on all 4 of these. Again, the pink goes right side up, so that texture should be up. And then these are smooth on both sides. You can score at 7 and 7. These all get placed in pocket C, and we're done scoring. At this point, you can turn to page 3 in your instructions and empty everything from pocket A. Now would be a good time to simply fold these card bases in half. Make sure that the bump or the raised part of the score line is facing up before you make the crease. And even though these papers were scored, I always recommend making sure that the corners are really properly aligned before you officially make the crease. If the paper was tilted even just a little bit in the score pal, you might not have as accurate of a fold as you would like. To save a little time, I like to stack up all of the papers and then just give it one swipe with my bone folder to give me a nice crisp burnished fold. You can do that on both sides and look how nice and crisp those creases are. Let's distribute the bases of the cards that we have. They're going to be 2 vertical, so we'll put the teal here and the pink, the lighter pink. Then horizontally, let's go light blue and metallic red. I'm going to take these printed panels first. So this just has the regular print and easy to distribute, just 1 per card. The next ones have the sentiments on. So this is the innie. So the first one's going to be your friendship is a special gift. I love this one. I think it's great for a birthday or like graduation, really anything. And then wishing you a quick and complete recovery here. Then we're going to do live now in this precious moment. That's a good reminder. And then sending well wishes your way here. Now from the D pocket, I want you to find these 1x12s. I'm going to go ahead and trim these to 5 1/4 inches. I'll go back and make sure this is in my initial instructions. It probably is, and I missed it, so I apologize for any confusion. And a light blue ones will be placed here, then the metallic red, the teal will be horizontal here, and the pink here. Now, what I need next are these smaller ones. They're going to go horizontally here in the metallic red, then a teal, the pink, and the blue. For the actual sentiments, we're going to do a you're the best with this one, get well soon, and happy birthday, another get well soon. On the inside of the horizontal cards, I added these 2 bonus pieces. And then we have this last little printed strip. I also added that to the inside of the horizontal cards. And now we have these remaining little sets of strips here. There's a wide, so let's distribute just the wider ones first. So we got teal here, pink, light blue, and red metallic, and then pink, light blue, red metallic, and teal. And now what I'm doing is stacking up the elements for cards 2, 3, and 4, and we'll make card number 1 together since all the cards are assembled in the same fashion. Now, before you attach this printed panel to the inside of the card, I need you to take a ruler of some kind, and we're going to find the 5 1/2 inch strip and adhere it like 3/4 of an inch from the edge, left edge of the card base. So just run your adhesive along the light blue strip. I'm using my grid ruler to find 3/4 of an inch to help me stay level. If you don't want to use the ruler, that's fine. Just try to get it as straight onto the panel as you can. Okay, now the next thing we're going to select is some of this ribbon. I'll cut a length of it that's just a little bit longer than the card base. I'll grab 2 pieces of tape and have them ready, and then just wrap this around to the back and secure. Now this next step uses something that was not included in the kit. I apologize for that. If you happen to have any kind of thread or cord or something that you can use to attach these lovely little connector pieces. I think they're so cool, but I wanted to utilize the little loops that come on at the end of each one. So I cut a length of this cord. This is a wax cord. We do carry it on our website in a couple of different colors. And I'm going to extend it through, just like you would attach a luggage tag onto a handle of a suitcase or something, just with that little loop. Then I'll take another piece that I fold in half, thread it through until you get that loop, and then grab the ends. Easy peasy. Okay, so now, kind of keeping in mind that I'm going to be adding the sentiment to the upper portion of the card so that this should be positioned kind of near the back. And if you want to separate the ends of the ribbon a little bit, or of the cord rather, and just tape that to the back. Once that's attached, you can safely add it to the card base, making sure it opens the right direction. And if you want, you can go ahead and attach the inner sentiment as well. And now we're getting close. So at this point, let's take the You're the Best and center that onto the mat. Now you have this wide and skinny piece. Let's cut a little chevron into the one short edge of each of these pieces. So just a little V. You don't have to be real particular about it. It usually just looks nice if you can make it just a nice 45-degree angle like so. And now we can line these up. Now one is much longer than the other, isn't it? How about we just attach this? We'll nest it on so that the pieces are together. And then we're going to figure out how long this needs to be in order to almost reach the right edge of the card, but not touch it. Like, you don't want these points touching the edge of the mat or even going beyond it. So we're right about there. I'll make a mark, and that's just for reference. That's going to be at about 3 7/8 of an inch. Beautiful. Now I'm going to put adhesive on the back of this and adhere it to the card so that this is kind of aligned with the left edge of the mat. And next I have some foam adhesive circles. I love these for attaching to everything. So I'm just going to pop dot this sentiment. Now, if you just really like to have your cards nice and one-dimensional, easy for mailing, that's fine too. I'm going to pop dot mine. Just notice I get extra mileage out of those dots because I cut them in half and they keep the pull tab intact. And now I can add the right side up greeting, "You're the best." We'll go right on top with the chevron sticking out from the right, and there's my sentiment on the inside. So order of assembly is important here, making sure that you get your border strip attached to the mat so you can wrap the ribbon and the charm around it before you layer this onto the card base. So here is the other vertical card. So very, very simple. Now on the horizontal cards, we distributed a few extra pieces. So let's talk about that. And the arrangement's just slightly different with this going out to the other side for some balance. Love the way that turned out. Here I attached first the printed strip going horizontally and then vertically on top of it. That's of course optional, and if you wanted, you could even nest with some more papers as well. And I did the same on the Get Well Soon card. So that's on the inside, as you see there. And if you have any doubt, you can also look in the instruction document. It shows the inside of every card. All right, that was set A. So again, all these cards assemble the same way. And with that complete, we'll move on to set B. As usual, we'll begin by folding along the score line, making sure that the bump of the score, once again, lands on the inside of the fold. You'll notice you're not folding these card bases in half at all. You're folding them and kind of making a split flap or an uneven flap. And again, you can stack them all together and give it a nice little crease so that you have a crisp fold with the help of your bone folder. Let's also turn to page 4 of our instructions so we can see the finished cards, and then let's distribute our card bases. Let's begin by placing the pink vertically here in the upper left corner, then teal, and then the red, metallic, and the light blue. For our next pieces, let's distribute the larger panels. Those kind of slide on the inside of each card base. That print, so pretty. Then we also have another printed panel that should nest perfectly onto the outside shorter flap of the card. Each card will also get one of these scored pieces, and if you would like, you can bury the bump of the score line as well on these. And we'll start with the light blue going to this one, to the first card, and then pink here, teal here, and dark red here. Each card will also receive a nesting panel that should fit right within that flapped area. So go with the metallic red and the blue and the pink and the teal. Now we have our outside sentiment. These are actually smaller than the inner sentiments for each card. So let's start out with "Have a very happy birthday" on the first 2 cards. Then "You are loved" and "Congratulations." It's that time of year, right, for the congratulations. I love this one. "There's absolutely no reason to act your age." That goes on both of the birthdays. Then next, "Sending hugs and hope for better days ahead." And that's just your catch-all. It could be sympathy, it could be get well, it could be really anything, just a little encouragement. And then "Congratulations, may your love grow more beautiful with every passing year." Great for wedding or anniversary, both. Now on these 2 cards, you can do this little printed dotty border. And then these, if you just trim the very, very end off on each side, that'll give you a 6 1/4 inch piece that will fit perfectly on the inner left flap. I'll quick show you that now before I forget. So that's just a nice little additive for the left inner flap of these 2 cards. Let's again stack cards 2, 3, and 4. So those are ready to go for later. And let's make this one together. And since they all get assembled the same, this is another card where order of assembly matters. So if you have this larger printed piece and you have the piece with the score, this time usually I'd kind of attach it kind of upper center here, but I want to do it exactly in the center of my card base. To help me with that, I think I will layer this panel on. It's 3 inches if it's centered, and then this is going to be at 1 5/8 if it's centered. You don't have to get super picky with it. I had it pretty close when I did my eyeball, but again, you just want to clip this around to the center. Once I flip it over, I kept it in its little spot and then just glued that tab down. Then you can, with your adhesive, add to the actual panel and nest it onto the card base. Now making sure that one flap is on the left and the smaller flap is on the right, and it's sandwiched between the panel and the card base. We can go ahead too and add this panel to the left flap. Remember, we have the nesting panel, and I like that we can incorporate all the colors in the collection. So we had the pink, the blue, the red. I guess we didn't have the teal. And on the outside, we can still add the happy birthday. On the inside, I actually attached the inner sentiment to the printed area, leaving this area for you to sign the card. But I also designed it so it does fit perfectly here as well. So it's totally designer's choice, wherever you'd like. That's my reasoning, is to put it there. For the left edge of the card, you can take some of our bookbinding glue and just add a little. This piece is the same width as my adhesive, so that's why I use wet glue in the situation. And then, I don't know, I'll give it maybe 3/8 of an inch. 3 cubes on my ruler. It doesn't really matter as long as my goal of keeping it level works. FYI, I have a small number of punches, and I do have this little daisy punch. If you have a flower-shaped punch that mimics anything happening in here, reach into pocket D and you'll find a print and a few other scraps that you can use, and then just print a couple of shapes out if you want to decorate this side of the panel. Again, that's totally optional, but you can see how it plays. And maybe you have a thin die cut you can use, whatever. I mean, that's just a wonderful way to use your scraps. Now, the last embellishment we're going to work with here is this doily. We have a silver doily. Make sure you just have one of them. Deb, poor girl. I mean, collating the doilies is always a project. What you want to do is make sure you know how wide your doily can be. And I'm going to go for about 2.5 inches. So I'm going to take this to my trimmer and trim it at 2.5. This is the 2.5 side. This is the wider side. Set that one aside because we're going to use those in set C. And then I can center this with the straight edge that I cut along the edge of the mat. The best way to attach it is to take the glue from your needle tip applicator. Hopefully you have one of these by now. If you don't, I really recommend it. And I'm just going to go along maybe some of the more solid areas and make sure you get the edge well. You don't want anything coming up off the edge, but other than that, if you've got that glue in those areas, this isn't going to go anywhere. And then I'll place it along the edge here. One of the reasons I like the liquid glue is that allows me to move it a little bit if I had to. I can scooch. With a dry adhesive like this, no scooching. And it's on and looking absolutely fabulous. Now the last thing is we got 2 full yards of this really pretty light blue grosgrain. I'm going to make my basic bow. So to do that, 2 little bunny ears. This gives me a nice flat knot. Cross the ears right over left, then bring the left ear through the loop and pull. And then that's not very pretty, is it? But once I kind of adjust the tails and give it a tug to tighten, I really have a nice looking bow. And then you can trim the tails. At this point, if you have glue lines or a glue dot, I really do like to use that. So I'll trim a small piece off of this roll of line, and I can put that right on my bow, or I can put it on my paper. And that can be placed right above the sentiment. Now, if you prefer not to make any bow at all, you can make a loop from the ribbon and just kind of have it peeking out to indicate, yeah, lift here. Other than that, this card is finished. Love how it turned out. The others go together, again, the same exact way. So there's the bow, have the doily, the punches, the border on this other one. And here we have the third. You are loved. Again, this is with that trimmed off the edge to make this 6 1/4 inches. And same for this last one. Now that we've got set B laid out, let's move on to our final set C. I'll turn to page 5 of the instructions and grab all the stuff out of pocket C, and there is a lot in there. You may want to just take a few minutes and sort all of these pieces out by size so that they're in piles going from largest to smallest. Let's take the card bases and fold according to protocol just by burying the bump on these little flaps that we're making. So again, it's just a 2-inch flap that we're creating on each card base. After burying the bump, you can stack everything up and give it a swipe with your bone folder. It's our routine to distribute our card bases, so let's start with the light blue, and then the red, the teal, and the pink. Okay. Next we have these larger pieces. Let's take the pink, and that's going to tuck inside, then the blue, the red metallic, and the teal. So all colors will be represented many times on all of these cards, actually. There's another piece that's kind of wide. It's the same width as the card, so in other words, 5 inches. That needs to match the top flap or the card base color. So blue, metallic, teal, and pink. Then we have like a medium-sized panel. It should be a nestable size for the bottom portion of this card. It should nest perfectly. So we're going to go teal, pink, light blue, and red. And there's going to be another set of panels that are narrower that fit within that top flap, and that color will match what's on the bottom. So teal, pink, light blue, and red. I hope you can kind of see the difference between these two rows. They're kind of close. Now would be a good time maybe to find our inner sentiments. Let's find for our first card, congratulations. That's going to fit within that window formed between these two areas. And a congratulations here, and then thinking of you on the other two cards. Now we have some vertical panels. This is the actual hinge that's going to hinge the top flap to the bottom flap. So let's go metallic red here, first time teal here, then pink here, and light blue. They get a nesting panel, believe it or not, so that's going to be light blue, metallic red, teal, and the pink. Then the outer sentiment, we have the sometimes the dreams. I have that toward the top on this one, and sometimes the dreams is the text is toward the bottom. Then we have our fingerprints on card 3 and 4. Each one of these also received a decorative little element that would have been a scrap, but it was rescued because Jacqueline designed art for it. Then I'll carefully take cards 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to stack those up. Another great option is to put the contents for all of each card into the 5x7 envelope it will eventually belong to. That way all the components are separate and won't get mixed up. Okay, all in all, this is a very easy assembly. I will start you off by taking that sometimes the dreams sentiment, and I'm going to nest it onto the light blue panel here. And we're going to make a double, like a chain link bow, I guess is my new preferred name for it, because the ribbon goes together like a pair of chain links. So I need to trim a ribbon length that's wider than the panel itself. And I need to trim 2 of them, the same length basically. Fold one of the links in half. And I'm going to kind of do this time like a mini V. Do you see the V? And I'm going to line it up so it's kind of at the center of my vertical strip with the ends going around to the back. Just want to see a little bit of that. Bring the ends to the back. This ribbon is so beautiful. And I'll grab some tape. I keep a tabletop tape dispenser handy so it's easier to grab without having to pick up a tape dispenser, if you know what I'm saying. Then the other piece gets looped through the original loop and give it a tug and a V shape as well. Oh, that looks so nice, doesn't it? Bring it around to the back. And I'll tape this. On my first sample, when I made it, I waited until this had been nested, then taped it, and I don't want tape showing from the back, so that's why I'm making sure we step this out in the right order. Now my vertical hinge is ready to work for me, and I don't need it for a little bit until a little bit later. So now let's kind of get this card assembled. We can begin with the nesting panels that go on the two flaps. So nest the larger panel onto the larger flap. It's not a flap yet, but it will be. And then this is the smaller flap. So center that. If you want to open the card, there is a large panel. This just gets adhered to the inner card base. Before you do anything else, take that bottom free form panel and just line it with the bottom edge of the card. And that creates a window for our sentiment. All right, let's get that sentiment ready to attach. I'm gonna realign this and hold it in place while I add the congratulations. So now I know it's going to be right where I want it to be. The hinge is what holds this bottom piece to the card. So I need to put some adhesive on the back toward the top and then an area down toward the bottom that's going to give me enough to be a stable attachment for my card base. Before I attach this, to ensure that it's level, I'm going to use the 0 center on my grid ruler to find a 1/2 inch from the edge and center. So that's going to be at 3.5 and 1/2. Then when I come in with my sentiment, I can center that at 3 inches and rest it against the ruler. That way I know it's perfectly level. Kicks it up a notch, makes it a little bit more professional. Now I have enough space to add this little decorative piece. Again, that was a bonus piece. It wasn't going to be part of the original plan, but because I had the scrap and Jack decorated it, designed something for it, I used it. Now remember earlier we only used a portion of the doily, so I'm going to trim this into a couple of different sections. One that will fit into the lower corner there, and one for this upper corner here. So the doily cannot exceed 2.5 inches. So I'm going to narrow this up a little bit and trim it in unequal portions with the trimmer. So just to show you, I did clip off a little bit more, but now I have this that I can go into one corner, and this piece can go into my other corner here. And I'll use my bookbinding glue in the same way that I did before, just always making sure you get the edge and get that little area there. And I can add him to the upper corner. You can do any corner you want. You can do none of it at all. Make sure I get that edge, a couple of the rosettes, especially on the edge. The bookbinding glue is perfect for this job. It just gives it such an elegant look, doesn't it? I really love it. Sometimes doilies can be like, meh, but in this application, I think they're quite fabulous. So there is your vertical hinge card. Looks like I added I should have cut a little bit more off of this end because it's peeking through. Then finally, I will add my rosette here, my silk flower. I'm going to add some adhesive, just kind of more toward the center, and add this. Now with that attached, I'll set it aside to dry completely. That's your first vertical hinge. Then I have this one that matches. Again, the assembly for all of it is the same. Put this on the opposite corners, just whatever you're in the mood for. And here we have the last one. And there you have the Legacy Card Kit. I hope you had fun learning these unique card structures. And if you like the design of this collection, join me over at the Legacy Page Kit Workshop. Until next time, happy card making.